Hello, I'm Rollocks, founder and lead business coach at VisionWorks. And today I would like to introduce you to morning affirmations at VisionWorks. We are proud and excited to bring to you a technique utilized by many top performers in just about every field of endeavor. So what is an affirmation? An affirmation is an oral or written statement confirming something to be true even when you don't feel like it. VisionWorks affirmations are simple, positive statements declaring specific goals or outcomes for your day. These empowering declarations can have profound effect on the conscious and subconscious mind. So why affirmations? Positive affirmations can help you create positive emotions, which can improve your mental, emotional, and physical health. The awareness that affirmations produce makes you more likely to challenge negative or defeating thoughts as they arise. Research on affirmations indicates that they can boost your problem solving and decision making skills, help you to perform better under pressure, help you to focus on abundance rather than lack, and develop an attitude of gratitude. So how do you make the best of VisionWorks morning affirmation? First, find a place free of distraction. Secondly, remain calm. Smile if it feels natural to you. Say your affirmation slowly and clearly. That's number 3. Fourthly, repeat the affirmations at least 3 times, really focusing on the meaning of each word. We are convinced that these affirmations, when added to your daily routine, will empower you for greater impact. So look out for more of our promos and subscribe, and you will receive our podcast once a week that you can repeat daily to set your day on the right path. See you on the inside.
Hello, and good evening. Welcome to Financial Friday. Please do not adjust your sets or double check your link or wonder if you're in the right place. Yes, you are. We have switched things up a bit, and the usual host, Rollocks, is with us, but in a different role for today. I can tell you that what remains is the same for the next 90 minutes. You can expect to get practical information that will help you to decode financial success. Sounds interesting? Great. Is there a formula? What's the code? Is it applicable to you personally, professionally, as an entrepreneur, or as a person leading high-power teams? Well, you've come to the right place this afternoon. With over 20 years delivering strategic planning models to million-dollar state and private sector companies, providing tools for entrepreneurs to pivot to profit, and delivering financial coaching to persons to realize their dreams, Rollocks has seen and learned a lot about what it takes to decode financial success. According to him, one of the keys is found in this one practice: intentionality. And joining us today and live are 3 presenters who themselves are experienced in the spheres of corporate business, entrepreneurship, and education. And they will be sharing with us from their own global corporate experience in boardrooms, across the marketplace, and in classrooms, what intentionality and the practice of intentionality involves. You do not want to miss 1 second. As a matter of fact, why not share this live with someone you believe it can give a boost to as they strive to decode financial success? Our three panelists this evening who will be presenting are Anthony De Freitas, consultant and financial analyst, Dr. Laila Nadina Boisselle, who is an educator, a yoga instructor, and an author, and Miss Alina Lewis, success coach of Launchpad Consultancy. And fourth person on the panel who will be tying these different concepts together for you to understand how exactly to decode it is Rollocks, impact strategist of VisionWorks Solutions. We're live and we enjoy being interactive with you. So we ask you to write your comments, send in your questions. If you have a question or a comment from one of our presenters, you simply need to write at sign, question, their name, and then write the question. So let me say that again. You will be using write their name, and then follow it with your question for them or your comments. We are ready to start and bring on our first panelist, who is none other than Anthony De Freitas. Anthony De Freitas is a financial and business process analyst with over 30 years experience at a leading telecommunications provider. And he has played key roles in the implementation of customer management, accounting, and financial reporting solutions, and has developed and improved on the gauges used to assess and up-level business performance and profitability. In his capacity as treasurer of one of the successful credit unions since 2015, he has represented their interests at a number of international conferences. Anthony also serves as chair of the audit committee on the Trinidad and Tobago Credit Union Deposit Insurance Fund Cooperative Society Limited, which provides deposit insurance protection for member credit unions to protect their members' investments. He provides consultancy services to small to medium enterprises to drive process improvement and the recruitment of talent at management level. Anthony will start us off by first decoding what is intentionality and what is it not. Anthony De Freitas.
Thank you very much, Simone. And that was such a nice, high energy introduction. It has me, perked up and ready to go. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I am very humbled. But, I think my job here this evening is a fairly easy one, in that I've been asked to basically define intentionality, explain what it is not, and just give a brief overview as to how it shows up. Now, intentionality is something that we all will be familiar with, whether we have a name for it or not. In our experience, as you get older especially, all of us would be able to relate to that concept of intentionality. And just to give you some context, when you do any research, years ago I had done research on this concept because it's something that always intrigued me. And I did some research on it, and I realized that there was a lot of argument in the intellectual circles among those, into philosophy and these sort of things, And some people say that intentionality can't be a thing. All right. They believe that because we are human and we have free will, they believe that everything we do is intentional. But if you study things like law, all right, you're going to realize that some people don't have something called capacity, right? There are some people who are mentally disabled. There are children or people below a certain age, varies from country to country, and so on. So some people don't have the capacity to have that, what we call free will. So this is why, in my view, intentionality has to be treated as a concept, as a philosophy, as a way of life, right? So I did some checks over the past few weeks as to properly defining intentionality. If you do a search on YouTube and so on, you're going to hear all kinds of things. You'll see John Maxwell and some really great orators talking about examples of intentionality and so on. But in terms of putting it together in your mind, I devised a short definition and gave an example, a short example of how it works. All right. So basically, what I'd like to push here today is that intentionality is an attitude of purposefulness with a commitment to deliberate action. All right. That is the definition of it. And I think that properly sums up what we mean when we talk about intentionality. It's purposefulness, it's an attitude. In my view, it's an attitude. It's a way of life, it's a concept, right? Where you exercise purposefulness with a commitment to deliberate action. Of course, that is predicated on the fact that this is a attribute that dogs, cats, animals, and the whole are generally not seen or expected to have, right? This is from a being, the perspective of a being like us, which has self-awareness and some level of free will, right? So just to put it in perspective, it is also the flow of thought and action toward anything we affirm. We remember Rawle was talking about that 5 minutes before we start. Anything we affirm, desire, love, or dislike, right? So again, intentionality is an attitude of purposefulness with a commitment to deliberate action, right? It is the flow of thought and action toward anything we affirm, desire, love, or dislike. So, to contrast now, in order to appreciate the concept, we should understand also what it is not, right? And what intentionality is not is the kind of vai way we see people living from day to day in this modern world, right? One of the things one of my pet peeves is that everywhere you turn, you see kids, adults, old people, young people, everybody, and they head down on the phone, right? The internet and the proliferation of marketing by big companies and so on is actually reducing people to something like slaves, right? And what happens is that they live their lives without any basic meaning other than to consume. And that is not a good place to sit at all. So basically, one of the objects of this exercise is, together with all the things that Rawle and Company and VisionWorks have been talking about and trying to espouse to followers, is that we need to take deliberate steps. We need to plan our lives. We need to budget, right? But more importantly, all that would be useless if you don't exercise intentionality, right? And just before I close, I just want to give a brief example, right, of how intentionality shows up in life. And I'll share a short story. When I was a little boy, I was about 7 years old when I joined the acolyte support group in my Catholic church where I grew up. And we had to serve at least 5 times for the week, 3 times during the week and 2 times on the weekend, especially when you're new. So once you train to serve mass and support the priest, you had to show up at least 3 times during the week for mass at 6 o'clock. And that was really an exercise in disciplining us. Imagine from 7 years old, I had to do this. So it developed a sense of responsibility in me, but that would be useless if I didn't have to put things in place. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, don't wake me up in the morning. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Tony, wake up 5 o'clock. So you gotta have something to eat, bathe, brush your teeth, and get out of the house in time to be able to reach a church to serve. And what happened was that I found myself at 4:45 flying up off the bed without even thinking about it, right? So that is one of the examples that we have that in terms of the way that intentionally can show up in our life. But it comes from something deliberate action. So in other words, we have to make a decision. That is most times when intentionality shows up or we exhibit that concept in our lives is from making a decision.
Making a decision.
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
So thank you very much. I would like to end there for now, and then we could go to the second part of the presentation.
Tony, thank you so much.
You're most
I think
welcome.
that it definitely helped to demystify by giving intentionality a context, an attitude of purposefulness with a commitment together with it. Thank you, Tony, for
You're
that.
most welcome.
So we're about to move on to the comments, questions, and answers segment now. Yes, and joining us back, we have the panel who will contribute. But just before that, Tony, I'm glad you said it's an attitude of purposefulness and it's based on self-awareness. One of the things for me, and I'm so glad you said that, is when I think about the story of the hare and the tortoise, I am both, right? So just like we have different personality types, I think we have different learning types. And for me, I start like the tortoise, very slow. I need a runway to go on before I soar. So when you said it's an attitude of purposefulness, it made me feel, all right, you're not just slow at the start. Because a lot of persons might think, well, I'm not as quick as somebody else. But I think you've just shared with us that we can be intentional even if we may not be as quick as someone else once there is purpose behind it. Do I have that correct?
Very much so. Very much
Okay.
so. And one of the tenets of that too, that attitude, one of the things we have as human beings, we suffer from a lot of fear. We are programmed with a lot of emotions. God made us this way, right? But many times we have to take control of these emotions, right? A lot of times fear keeps people back, so the bottom line is sometimes you just need to make a decision to do something. Many times you don't even know how you're going to do it, right? But the subconscious mind, which is connected to the creator, does the work, the heavy lifting for us. Right?
Excellent. And I want to bring Rollocks in here because Tony has given us that definition, a very nice groundwork. You have been in the mainstream, in the ditches, you've been and you've seen it. Could you put that into a business context for us in terms of decoding financial success?
Thank you very much, Simone, and thank you, Anthony, for setting that foundation. What I'd like to do is to add a little bit more to the definition, because I believe intentionality is not an end state. All right, I see intentionality also as a process. Right, so it's a process of refinement, because we don't all start off knowing exactly all that we want to do and all that we want to be. But if we commit to that process of intentionality, we're going to find ourselves constantly refining. So I like to say that intentionality is a process of clarifying what brings the greatest satisfaction and joy, whether it's in our career or business, in our personal life, and making these steps to achieve that. And I think how it shows up ideally is in the way that we become more specific about things. You understand what I'm saying? We become more specific about what our needs are versus our wants. We are able to clarify that because earlier on, and I see this quite a lot when I sit with persons and I do financial planning, they're not too sure, they want to and have entertainment, all right? And sometimes entertainment takes on a priority over everything else. Over time, they get to clarify that and realize, listen, there are other things that may be more priority. So prioritizing is a big part of it too. So it shows up in terms of how we become more specific about what we want and what we don't want, right? What we prepare to do to get the things that are most important to us, the things that we say, how we manage our time, our money. We become more and more specific about these things as our vision becomes clearer about how we should live. And one of the examples that brings this out very often is when I sit with persons and we talk about their financial plan, I say, what's your goals now? They may have some goals. Let's say I want to have a car, I want to have a house. What size of house? Where do you want to have the house? What kind of car? Until you become more specific about these things, I want to get married. When? What time frame? And I've found that over time, people are able to refine these things better as they become more intentional. They can say, for example, listen, yes, I realize I want to retire in 20 years, but I have to consider inflation. If I don't consider inflation, so as they begin to make that refinement, they ask deeper questions and become more specific. So that's what I like to add to the discussion.
Excellent. I like that thinking, Rawle. But just to marry what you say to what I was saying, one of the issues that a lot of people lack the confidence to be intentional, or they feel that they can't do it because of this or they can't do it because of that. So I think the point you're making is very important, that you have to make the decision based on the things that bring you the greatest joy and satisfaction. So I fully agree with that.
Right. Thank you, Rawle. Laila, your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Simone, for the question. And it's been an interesting conversation so far. I honestly want to agree with Anthony. I think it is purposefulness, but I think that intentionality for me, has two steps, which is intention and manifestation. And the clearer we become, as Rawle talks about, the shorter the time between intention and manifestation. Generally, when we're very clear about what we want. And the other thing about it is that I agree with Anthony that people lack confidence, and I think that confidence goes down to it's more than confidence. I think it's actually a self-worth issue. Do we believe that we should have it, and do we believe that we are worth it? So we are waiting for the universe or whomever, whatever, this thing to show up on our door and to say to us that you are worthy of having it. But it's really the other way around, that you have to believe that you're worthy of having it, and then it shows up. It's just like you have to be worthy of managing money. And when we say that, it sounds esoteric, but it's not really esoteric. It's that, I mean, when we say you have to be worthy of money for money to stay in your life, it basically means you have to have the money management skill to keep money there, right? You have to stalk your money. I call it stalking your money, which means you have to write down in a book every day how much you spend. What do you spend it on? What do you have left? You have to heal your money wounds, right? Because we all have money wounds when we hear things like rich people aren't good, right? Rich people are evil, those evil rich people, you know what I mean? Or rich people are always doing bad things and cutting corners, or that money is the root of all evil. And we have these things embedded in our psyche somewhere that begins to repel money almost, because intentionality is very magnetic, that when you decide that you want something, you have to believe that it's making its way to us. So healing those money wounds. So when we say it in esoteric ways, that we have to believe we're worthy of money and money will find us, it's just as Rawle is saying, there are a set of skills by which that happens. It isn't magic, and it isn't esoteric. And there's an exercise I want you to do later on, and maybe I'll talk about that a little later on, about how do we actually because most people sit there and they think, no, I believe I deserve that $1 million. I deserve that $1 million. But when you really sit and reflect on that in meditation, and I can describe the exercise now to you, not to take up your time. If you just sit deeply in meditation, or your prayer, or your spiritual practice or thought, or whatever you want to call it, and you envision this thing that you want, so make it big. I always say go big or go home, right? So just as you could wish for 1 million, you could wish for 10 million, right? It's the same wish, it's the same intention.
I'm
So
going for the 10, Laila. I'm going for the 10.
yeah, go big or go home. This is
Great.
what I say. Go big or go home. There's no point. If you sit quietly in your quiet space, and you just feel what your life feels like. But as Rawle says, in every single detail, you have to feel what your life looks like. You get up in the morning, you have $10 million, you open your eyes. What does your room look like? What are you doing next? What does your coffee look like? So it has to
Wow.
be in every, you have to envision it, taste it, feel it. And feel your body next. And a lot of people, when you feel your body, feel for where the discomfort is. And sometimes people have a little discomfort in the tummy. We have a little discomfort in our heart. And you're like, I am here with my dream of $10 million. Why I have this discomfort? And you start asking yourself, or you can ask the discomfort, why are you here? And then normally it says to you, well, because you're afraid. And then you say, well, why am I? Because I did this exercise with my son who wants a
So it
cooking show.
happens.
It
So
does.
you can have that conversation.
Correct. And I said to him, why are you afraid? And he said, because everybody's looking at me on the show. And I'm like, so why is that a problem? And he says, because they can see me if I fail. And I said, so what if they can see you if you fail? Who cares? And he said, well, then they will know. I said, well, what will they know? And he said, they will know that I'm not good at what I do. And
I like the line of question, Laila. But
exactly.
so I want to just hop over to Alina though to ask her thoughts on the definition of intentionality.
Well, I mean, hi Simone, thank you. Hi to everyone, live viewers. I really want to just piggyback on what Laila was sharing as she mentioned the manifestation aspect of intentionality, because even as Rawle and Anthony were chatting, I was really visualizing intentionality as a book, as part of a book, and I was thinking to myself that intentionality is almost like chapter one of the book. And I thought it was so important to mention, because oftentimes we think about intentionality as a sum total, and I just need to get my intentions together and I'll be fine. But in many aspects, intentionality represents the beginning of the journey. There is still action to take place, there's still that commitment to really embrace, and so many other processes we go through, even after we've identified the vision and really tapped into who we are, what we want, we've gotten specific. We now have to be committed to the journey of taking action to bring into manifestation the thing that we're really desiring. And so I really just wanted to encourage persons to consider intentionality not as the end goal. And I think Rawle alluded to this, but think about it as the beginning almost, so that as we get started on the journey, we know that there is still work to do and actions and steps to be taken as we embrace the path and the vision that we have ahead for us.
Wow. Thanks so much, Alina. And thank you, Tony, for starting us off on the definition and making it very practical with your own example of telling Mom, don't wake me up. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to own this. So right about now, folks, I just want to remind you that you are looking at Decoding Financial Success. Intentionality can make the difference. And I am Simone Nicome. This is brought to you by VisionWorks. And VisionWorks is a team of business consultants, trainers, and coaches who are committed to helping individuals and businesses thrive in today's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. They guide clients to unearth their creative genius, direct your efforts towards innovation, and this has seen fueling ideas for sustainability, and created transformational impact that yields harmonious business and personal success. We are talking today about intentionality. And our next presenter is Dr. Laila Nadina Boisselle. She is a higher education teacher, researcher, and administrator, a curriculum expert designer, a builder, implementer, and evaluator. She's a Yoga Alliance registered Hatha yoga instructor for adults and a Yoga Alliance registered children's yoga teacher. She's certified in integrative nutrition health coaching from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York. She is a Ryoho Reiki practitioner, and do give me the correct pronunciation, Laila, when you come on. She is an author, a breast cancer survivor, and an extremely happy person. She highlights that she is not a medical doctor. All of that aside, Laila is here to happily convince us to settle for nothing less than living our favorite life every day by practicing intentionality. To share her story, her own way, and in her own words, Dr. Laila Nadina Boisselle.
So, hi, good afternoon, everybody. So, thank you, Simone, for such a wonderful, wonderful introduction. I like that you focus that I'm a happy person because that I think is the success of my life. Um, so, I have been asked to speak about why is intentionality important for business persons and professionals? What are the benefits, and what are the costs of being unintentional? So the first thing I would like to say is that intentionality is magnetic. And because it is, we must be very, very careful, and we must use discipline to develop it. Otherwise, we're going to draw all strange sorts of situations to ourselves. Our days become scattered, unfocused, and meandering. Intentionality then is careful. It is careful to speak positively, knowing that the universe is listening for our every phrase, our every thought, our every word, treating them like intentions and waiting to manifest them. So powerful are we. Ironically, then, learning to bring our thoughts, our words, and our actions into alignment with each other. And this is what it means to be a person of integrity, that our thoughts, what we say, and what we do are all in alignment with each other. To bring these together, to make them still and to make them unwavering in their focus is a part of intentionality, and it is a spiritual practice. And when we talk about spirit, when I speak about spirit, it's not necessarily religious. It could be, if that is what it means for you, but it could be talking to your plants, it could be writing in your journal, it could be hugging a tree, it could be talking to God. Anything that connects you to source and that helps you to quiet and discipline your spirit. And this discipline then becomes important to the act of intention setting and eventual manifestation. So, the first act of being intentional is having a spiritual practice and working to deepen that every day. Otherwise, we are ungrounded, we are unfocused, we have no roots because our intentions give us roots and direct the course of our day. So, without intentionality, then our days can be rushed, they can lack focus, and they can be powerless. When we become busy, intentionality helps us to determine which of Franklin Covey's quadrants we are going to need to operate in. You know, that time in the day when there's so many things are happening and we can't decide what to do next. And we have Franklin Covey's four quadrants. Is it not important and not urgent? Is the thing important and urgent? Is it important but not urgent? or urgent but not at all important. Being intentional at the start of our day, moving our spiritual practice and the planning of our day to the start, so that when we have downtime, when we have crazy time, when we don't know what to do next, because we have set our intentions at the beginning of the day, because we are aware and we are focused, it helps us to be agile. It helps us to be to shift our course in the middle of the day and still remain on the path that we have set. During the day when we have downtime, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I'm not very good with downtime. Anytime I have downtime, I get very confused and I never know what to do. I'm like, what do I do next? But anytime I sit at the beginning of the day and I set my intention strongly because I know what I want to achieve at the end of the day, if downtime comes or if crazy time comes, I know what is important and what is urgent. I know what is important and not urgent. I know what is urgent and not important. And I know which things may be neither urgent nor important so that I can just kick them out the door. So, having our clear intentions from the start of the day helps us to embrace stillness as well, that might occur within our day as also purposeful and with intent, instead of assuming that we must fill every moment with busyness, as opposed to embracing quiet and rest, which are also intentional and needed for our healing, our growth, and our productivity during the day. So, our second act of intentionality then is planning at the start of the day so that we remain rooted in our intentions, even as our day calls us to be flexible and agile. You can make a list of intentions and read them every morning with your hand on your heart as part of your morning prayer and meditation. Include intentions for your business, your loved ones, your family, your country, your community. As you say each intention, feel what it feels like in your body and your heart and your mind to actually see and have these things manifested. And you can have as many as you want. I have like 32 of them on my list, so that you can have as many of them as you want. And I have them in an Excel document in my Google Drive. And part of my morning routine is that I open them up every morning when I'm meditating and I read them. The other side of being intentional is surrendering to what happens. And Rawle spoke a little bit about this earlier. The role of surrender in being intentional, that I ask so that I reveal to the universe. In using our speech and in setting intention, when we say to the universe, this is what I want. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want a dog. I want a new car. But, right? So that I reveal to the universe that this is what I want, what I know I deserve through grace, because grace wants us to be happy. And then I release it, put grace on put grace on the case. I'm seeing Simone, so I know I'm probably over my time.
But we want you to go ahead and finish
Oh, I'm almost there.
that
Grace
branch.
is So grace is dimensionless and multidimensional and sees how my intent serves in every one of its incarnations and brings it back to me in the exact shape at the exact time, space, and place so that it serves and edifies me and those around me. So, one of the biggest things about setting intentions is also that we need to surrender it at the end. Just surrender it and see when it comes back to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Laila, very much. Intentionality is magnetic. Okay, so intentionality is like a personality or a thing, and we need to be careful about it. I like that. I like that thought. It means that, I saw it like there's a cocoon or something. So we have to be so careful about this seed of intentionality, because it is going to do something. It's going to attract something to it. Thank you so much, Laila, for sharing. I think we are the happier for what you've just shared. And we are ready to involve our audience, those who are joining us live, to share your questions or your comments. Yes, and we are all together again. And I will ask Rawle, in terms of what Laila shared about making it a practice and, crossing over that boundary of thinking that I am not worthy of getting this, but grace is at work there with me and planning. Help us to understand that in the context of decoding it for financial success.
Listen, that was so great. I was here taking notes. I have so many notes here that even in terms of the financial part, this was really great. What I liked in particular too, and it's very important, is this whole idea of framing your day. And Laila spent some time on the importance of sitting and meditating, looking forward, and she has 32. You understand, and 32 things that she focus on. But I think it's so important, particularly as it comes to finance, because you mentioned this whole idea of it being magnetic because it attracts to you, right? But what I like about what she said too is that it's also a holistic approach. So even though we may be talking here about decoding finances, you realize that you have to cater to all these other areas of your life. So this whole idea of having money and having your needs met, right, is not just about cash in your hand. It's an attitude that takes into consideration the whole person. So I particularly like those comments that that she added there, and you see it. You see it as you begin to frame your day in the right way. You begin to understand that things may happen to throw you off. You may have this plan. You may set up a business, all right? And this is what you expect to happen in the business, all right? You framed your day well, all right? But later on, you realize that it doesn't just go the right way, but because you framed it, it helps to bring you back. That's the attractor at work. It helps to bring you back to that anchor of what you're focused on and what your intention is. So I particularly like that aspect of it and how it helps persons achieve financial success.
Thank you, Rawle. Tony, I want to ask you, because we work together in the finance division, and we know what it's like to have these reports. And the worst time you want a query to come in is when you're in the middle of a report and you're facing a deadline, right? How does an intentional person adjust in the midst of all of that?
Excellent question. And one of the things that Laila said earlier really resonated with me, which was that part about the meditation. I take that to mean that we have to develop our spiritual self, right? And the thing is, there's a particular time of the day. I used to think it was for me, but I realized by talking to more and more people, apparently it's a very auspicious time. That time between 3 and 5 a.m. Some people say between 3 and 4 a.m. For me, I'm a late riser generally. I was born at 9. So my day, you remember Simone always used to tell you that. My day normally starts at 9. But I have found that waking up anytime between 3 and 5 a.m., there is something, I don't want to say magical, it has to be spiritual. I'm a godly person, and I really believe that I connect with my creator between that particular time. And it's almost like if, to me, it feels like I have an open door at that point in time, right? So the point I wanted to add to that is, in order to deal with life's challenges, you must have that rudder. You must have a rudder, right? And some of us say, okay, intentionality, but really and truly intentionality could be misguided, You understand? I have a lot of practical examples of intentionality gone wrong, But the point I'm making is that rudder and that connection is very, very critical. And when you have that, no matter how challenging the day gets, right? Sometimes you have to just prioritize, as Laila was saying earlier as well, in terms of the COVID matrix, you have to look at the things that are important, things that are not important, the things that are less important. You have to prioritize, because my thing was like that. When I was working at this large company, as an analyst, I was an analyst for at least 15 years of my tenure. and I would be up 2 o'clock in the morning doing reports and all that, but I working on the things that are most critical and that would well score the most points in terms of being effective. So you have to always relegate certain things to a lower place and get the most important critical things out of the way first.
Right. Thanks, Tony. I just want to
No problem.
pause to say hi to Paula from Aruca. Hi, Paula, for joining us. And hello to Cassie, all the way from Tobago. Hi, Cassie. And I want to ask Alina. Alina, Laila spoke about the Covey model and Tony referenced it also. But how does a person decide what's urgent, what's important, when sometimes you feel like everything is urgent and important? You want to be intentional. How does an intentional person, is there a model? Is there something you can use to help you decide what is urgent versus what is important, what is both, what's not?
I think on a very simple level, anybody could just use timelines and deadlines to help them. Because sometimes we could complicate it so much, but at the end of the day, if the report is due today and then, another submission is due tomorrow and, we have to hand things up, we could very simply use the timelines or the deadlines to really guide us to understand what is it that has to be done. I remember having a chat during COVID. I mean, technically we're still in COVID, right? But I remember early in COVID having a chat with someone, and my friend was saying, I don't know how to figure out which bills to pay because I'm not working. How do I know which bills to pay? And I said, well, which one will cut you first? That one you need to pay. And I kept it so simple. Which one will get disconnected first? You should go pay that one. And so sometimes when we start thinking, well, how do we prioritize? How do we know what to prioritize? Of course, we have to look at what aspect of our lives and what is the impact of the shuffle. Is it going to impact our financial state? Is it going to impact our ability to accomplish a particular goal? Is it going to impact health? Is it going to impact finances? And we have to know to what extent does this thing, whatever it may be, increase or decrease quality of life, increase or decrease our ability to be effective or efficient, whether in the home or in the workplace. And so when we look at that and we consider our timelines, we could then pull back and say, you know what? Based on these factors, the impact it has on quality of life, the impact it has on deadlines that have been established, and any other factor, we're able to say, this is how I know what sort of priority I would give. And what I would do is encourage people to embrace positive communication. Because just because we may have to deprioritize something doesn't make you a horrible person, a terrible friend, a terrible mother, a terrible co-worker. But what it means is by using positive communication to share with a person, say, listen, this is what it is. This is the reason why I have to allocate my time in a particular way. It allows people to then make the necessary adjustments so that it becomes a win-win situation for all, and no one is being compromised in the process of you or me having to make different levels of prioritizations.
Okay. So then, Alina, there's no need to go eeny, meeny, miny, moo. We can use the timelines and the deadlines, or what is the most pressing thing that has to be addressed next. Thanks for that. Rawle, I want to just ask you, what is the cost of not being intentional, especially for a person who's an entrepreneur?
Well, in terms of and just to piggyback on what Laila had shared, Laila shared a very powerful model, those quadrants, Franklin Covey's quadrants. And one of the things he also shares is the whole concept of the big rocks, and that it's very important to understand what your big rocks are, right? But remember, I said earlier in my definition that part of intentionality involves a process. So it takes you a little while to work those things through, all right? Understanding what those big rocks are. So we're talking about our health, we're talking about our family relationships, we're talking about our business, and those are some key things. And so for me, every day, all right, whether as an entrepreneur or as a professional, we have to understand those big rocks in our lives. So we may not be able to get all those rocks in one day, but over the course of a week or a period of time, we have to make sure we adjust to get those things in. If we fail to do so, we begin to see challenges in our relationships. We're going to see challenges in the goal attainment, delayed goals. We're going to, the life experience, you understand, is going to be difficult. And for an entrepreneur especially, you're going to find yourself going around in circles. The level of mistakes that you make, you're going to be making more mistakes. You're going to have to redo things. So you're going to find yourself floundering, all right? And that's something that you feel, apart from the numbers, you can literally feel every day when you're out of that. There's out of sync, there's a kind of dissonance. So I think those are the things that you begin to experience as you arrive at that place of not being intentional. But you would know though, and this may be a challenge to the panel as well. Some people have a different perspective. Some people say, listen, well, I'll just be organic. I'll just let it happen. And some people say that they experience happiness that way. Whatever happens, they live life with an open hand. Whatever comes, whatever goes. So I don't know what is the panel's take on that. I don't know if we have time for that, Simone, in terms of should we just be organic and just let life happen?
Yeah, I will take a little stab at it. I won't be long, but that's a critical question you asked there, Rawle, and it's something that any small business owner could resonate with. And I have plenty of friends who went into business, and half of them succeeded or did reasonably well, and half failed. Generally, when you don't have that intentionality as your ethos, you have a problem. Because at the end of the day, when a business is small, particularly at what we call the incipient stage, within the first 1 to 3 years, it really is critical that you be intentional. Because if you're not, it most likely may mean you may be lacking a budget, you may be going into products or services that you're not equipped for because you're just going on a whim. As I was saying when I started off, it's just like a Vicky-Vi kind of approach. But I mean, the way you put it, I like how you put it, is like, let's just be organic. Let's just go with the flow kind of thing. And I know 1 or 2 people that have done it like that in certain types of businesses. And because of other reasons, for example, relationships and networks, these people manage to survive. But even though they survive, they still never really thrive and grow as a business. So I think the watchword that the key point we have to look at here, the key distinction is that intentionality makes the difference between growth and lack of growth. That's the bottom line to me.
Thanks for that, Tony. Laila,
Welcome.
in 30 seconds, do you have anything that you would want to share in response to what Rawle asked?
Yes, please. I just think that intentionality must always be balanced with surrender, that we set our intentions, but we just have to surrender and let grace come through. I really do believe that. And there's this concept of flow. I can't pronounce the theorist's name, Sutherland Talley. You can Google it, and he talks about flow, which is kind of equal to surrender when you're totally in alignment with purpose. Like when you see Michael Jackson sing and Michael Jackson dance, and it's just like something is just energizing him from a different place. So I think surrender is also necessary in order to bring that level of almost just take it to another level.
Wow. Thanks so much, Laila. And like you said, we need to have that flow. So we are now going to intentionally flow into our next presentation. Thank you, panelists. So right now we are ready to bring on our third presenter who will be sharing on some critical steps to becoming more intentional. We will be having Mrs. Alina Lewis. And Mrs. Lewis is the founder and principal coach at Launchpad Consultancy. In her role as a business coach since 2008, Alina has mentored numerous entrepreneurs and guided them through launching, revamping, and even restarting their businesses. with over 14 years of experience in business management and having spent the past 11 years as an entrepreneur herself, she's well known for her ability to create interactive learning environments, and her success is testament to her proven track record of successful and satisfied clients. Through her business launchpad consultancy, Alina offers holistic support to clients as she works with individuals from concept to sustainability. Using a developmental approach, she assists clients as they prepare for launching, expanding, as well as revamping in their business, depending on their specific needs. Clients also benefit from assessment through her consultation. Talking to us about what are some of the critical steps to becoming more intentional, Mrs. Alina Lewis.
So we definitely are. I'm excited to be here chatting about critical steps for intentionality. And so often, we want to be intentional, but a question is, what are we being intentional about? And so, even as I consider critical step, very practical things we can do, things we could sit in this moment and make decisions concerning is, have you taken time to establish your vision of self for yourself? Because what really are you being intentional about? A lot of times when we think about what do we want, Laila talked about, really putting out there and establishing what is it that we want from the universe, what do we want to ask for, whatever you believe in. What are we saying we want to achieve, we want to be a part of, we want to embrace? We need to have a vision for where we want to go, what we want to achieve, the life experiences we want to be able to embrace. And I really want to encourage persons to have that as a starting ground. Have you taken time to sit and do that writing, whether through journaling or any other way, to say, this is my vision for me. This is my vision for different areas of my life. This is my vision for my finances, for my personal life, for my business, for my spiritual development. What is it that you want to accomplish? What do you want to embrace? By taking the time to lay that foundation that says, this is my vision and this is what I am going to be projecting for me, for my life, for my family, that's a great place to start if you've not yet done so. But once you've gotten into saying, let me write the vision and make it plain, it means that what we're doing is we're thinking about planning the future from a perspective of imagination. Again, to quote Laila, we go big or we go home. So we're planning with imagination, but even as Anthony encouraged us, we want to plan from a place of wisdom. And to do that, a great starting point is saying, get that journaling done and make your goals smart. We talk about it all the time. And so often we talk about the idea of smart goals from the perspective of, oh, we're planning for our business. But imagine what would happen if we did smart goals for our lives. That when we start establishing what is it that we want to have, we are specific. We make it measurable. We make sure it's attainable. And that doesn't cut down on imagination. We're still running with the 10 million that Laila mentioned. But we want to make sure that we are doing what is needed to build capacity so it becomes attainable. Is it relevant to you? Are you copycatting something that you see your friend or your colleague and we want it because someone else has it? Or do you want it because it resonates with your instinct and who you are as a person? And have you put timelines to it? Make your goals smart. Because when you make it smart, it gives you the focus that you need to then exercise that intentionality. So we want to establish the vision. We want to make those goals smart. And I want to encourage us as a third critical point to consider, surround yourself with people who represent your vision values. Whether it's a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, or some other sort of influential person in your life. One great way to be intentional is to surround yourself with others who are living and really pursuing that journey of intentionality. Imagine what a struggle it would be if you are here on the journey trying to be intentional and you surround yourself with people who say, oh, that's not important. What you worried about? How it work out, girl, boy, thing. Surround yourself with who you want, with people that represent what you want to become. Surround yourself with persons who will encourage you to become and to step into the life, the experiences that you desire for yourself. Let it be as coals coming together to cause a catching of that burning, that heat, that fire, to get you revved up to say, I can do this. I'm going to position myself to do this. I believe I am worthy. You want to encourage yourself by surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar path. And once you do that, I want to encourage you, embrace strategies that build capacity for productivity and success. In Anthony's presentation earlier, he mentioned capacity, and he talked even later on in the Q&A about not just necessarily just going off of a whim, but you're making sure you're positioned to do your best in the thing that you're stepping out into. So if you have a goal, you have a new project, you have this desire that you want to step out into, you want to embrace, make sure you have the capacity for productivity and success so that it can become a reality. That we're not having misguided intentions, but what we really are doing is really, as Rawle mentioned earlier, we're honing in and we're becoming specific. So that way, when we look at professional development in the areas of whether time management, skills development, ICTs, whatever you need, expose yourself. Be committed to being committed. Be committed to your vision. Be committed to realizing that I'm going to have to do some work. Earlier in the session, I mentioned the importance of saying, hey, you want to be able to get yourself in position where you can move forward and think about intentionality as a chapter 1 and be committed to taking the journey, taking the steps. And last but certainly not least, I really want to encourage us all: honor God, honor people, honor self. Whatever you call God in your life, that's fine. Honor God, honor people, honor self. Because when we bring honor, and Laila mentioned integrity, when we walk in that place of integrity, it's easy to then live that life of intentionality, because there is almost like a karmic energy that comes that says you can do it, and it thrusts you forward. So I really hope these very practical steps, you find it helpful. And, I wish you guys all the best as we all become intentional as we get ready for 2022. Thank you, Simone.
Alina, thank you. Alina, I think you are the hare in the story, the hare and the tortoise. I'm the tortoise. I start a little slow and build up. You are the hare. You just take off and you keep that pace. Thank you so much for telling us that, the anchor, establishing your vision of self. That's where it all begins. Because when you establish that vision, it's like saying, okay, this is my goal. This is what I'm reaching towards. This is what I see as my success. And not just having that vision and anchoring it and not just writing it, but getting involved, getting movement, getting traction in it, like Laila had said, towards manifestation. And like Anthony mentioned, that he actually did and practiced even at that young age when he was becoming an acolyte. So right about now, we want to bring all the panelists back on as we continue our discussion. Our live audience, we ask you to drop us your comment. How do you reflect on your intentionality? How does it manifest for you? Are you having any challenges? Do you need anything clarified? Now is the time to ask. So to our presenters, and I like to start with Rawle because Rawle, I want you to really put this in terms of a business context. We know that businesses tend to have the same thing. They establish their vision, they set the goal. Is it that, especially now in terms of the season with this pandemic, is it that there's anything that has changed in terms of how you go about establishing your goal and your strategy for the coming year? Is it at the start of the year? Where does it happen? Can you help us to understand?
I would say the principle, thank you very much, Simone, and thank you, Alina, for those steps that you had shared. I would say the principles are very much the same, all right? Maybe some of the tools have changed because we're pushing a very digital, online, virtual world. But one of the things to me that has come out very clearly so far is that financial success is not disconnected from the other areas of our life. In other words, if we are going to achieve financial success, if we're going to be intentional about it, we have to be intentional about how we take care of ourselves, how we see ourselves, all right? The time we spend, our rest and relaxation. We have to think about our relationships, the people that are important in our lives. We have to think about career. All those areas of our life are connected. And I think it's one of the mistakes that people make in business because they're pursuing this goal, this particular project in mind. So I could share, for example, businesses that I've coached where the husband and wife are at loggerheads. She isn't really clear about what he is trying to do. He is pushing this intention and she is not involved. And the children are saying, what is daddy doing? They're not connected. You understand what I'm saying? But as soon as that individual was able to connect the family as one team, they experience a boost in their business that he did not ever see before. All right. So I think one of the things that we have shared here that is very, very powerful, and I like, is that it's all connected and we have to look at all these areas of our life. But I wanted to add another dimension about times and seasons, Simone, right? Because I believe understanding timing and understanding seasons very important. So I may want success in business, I may want success in the relationships, and I believe I'm ready for it now. All right. I remember about 10 years ago, I started a business called Digit All. And my partners and I were excited about digitizing everything. We were going to but look at what's happening now. No, the timing for that business was it just wasn't right? And the business floundered. All right. But today it has positioned us in a way that we're able to take advantage of opportunities that are happening now. You see what I'm saying? And the same thing happens with relationships. It happens in our personal life. We think that we're ready. We have this vision and we must have this now. But there are things that we need to learn. There are principles, there are habits, there are things that we need to develop to be able to handle the success that we're looking for. So I just thought I'll add that element because some people may become despondent. They may think, listen, I have all the intention and I'm going after this, but it's not happening. But we have to have that stick-to-itiveness and understand time and seasons. You're muted, Simone.
Sorry about that. I wanted to ask Tony. Tony, you're the treasurer of a well-known and successful credit union. And, one of the things a credit union does is to encourage thrift. Do you think in this current climate that persons are being thrifty, or how have they responded to the pandemic and money?
From where I sit, I have seen very mixed reactions to the pandemic. There are some people who have a small fixed income. Some people have savings and unable to work. Some of our members and members of the credit union movement suffer from this issue. Some people have been laid off since August last year and still have not begun to work, right? So we have a lot of challenges. So you have some people who are able to ban the belly, so to speak, and live on the bare minimums and somehow get by, because that is a serious problem the society is facing right now. Most financial institutions, even though Republic Bank does, RFHL does post well over $1 billion in profit for the last year, a lot of that money, if you look at the financials, is from bank charges, right? Loans have gone down. The demand for loans, the savings in the typical financial institution right now has dropped by at least 30% on average, right? So it is a very, very challenging time. And actually, one of the ways that financial institutions, banks, credit unions, and so on, even the unit trusts, have decided to go was to basically try and cut some of the fixed recurring costs, I should say, some of the recurring costs, try to control that over time and a lot of the overheads and so on, and try to keep things lean, right? Some people don't have that, they don't have that luxury, right? And a lot of people just basically living on, if you were to liken it to a car, they're living on fumes, so to speak. And that is a really worrying situation. You know, you hear some stories of desperation, right? You see it in letters that come to credit unions and financial institutions. And while they go all out to help members, you know the situation is dire. But one of the problems we have in the country and in the world is that, again, and this is why the intentionality is so important, we have people out there who have so much potential, but they cannot achieve something called shift, which is the ability to shift your identity, your perspective, and your whole action in order to adapt and to thrive and to grow. So that's one of the major issues we face in this country right now. We still have people, most of us, about 70% of the workforce, still see themselves as a provider of services. And that really is a mindset that has to get thrown out the window, you know, because the world right now is ripe with
Yes.
opportunity for
Opportunities.
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Yes. I
Right.
agree. And I see Laila smiling and shaking her head. Laila, unmute.
Touched it. Yes. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you because part of what Simone, part of what you should know
Alina?
about me.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree because part of what I did, and Simone says she needs to be my PR agent. But part of what I did is that I've just spent about 7 years living and working in Dubai, and I've come back to the Caribbean, and now and I'm working as an educational consultant now, and I think I keep saying I like that idea. I love that idea, Tony, about shift. And I keep saying to people, and people don't believe me, that face-to-face schooling is dead, right? I mean, just in terms of my industry, face-to-face schooling, we're not going back. There's no going back. We're probably going to have some kind of blended model or some kind of thing like that. But right now, it is like you cannot. And part of what I am doing with my consulting work now in the Caribbean, and I keep saying to companies, you can't see what's coming. This is why it's so interesting. We have no idea what's coming. Everything is, but it's exciting because we're creating it as we go. We're creating this future. We are creating the future. We are creating how we're going to work, because another thing that's dead is people going into offices, right? That's not going to be happening anymore. So the whole world is shifting, and it means that there are so many opportunities, but we have to be brave enough to go out there and sell ourselves, to take our skills, market it, and shape it into something else. Because what I'm realizing is that possibly all of us now are going to have like 2 or 3 jobs. Really, honestly, we're going to, because it's going to be digital work. You're going to be doing something for one company, something for another company, something for somebody else. So you have to, so the whole playing field is shifted. And it means that within that, having this myriad kind of dimension, full of dimension portfolios, one of those things could be an entrepreneur. And it helps with the work-life balance, which is shifting because employee says it must shift. And it helps to keep your financial portfolio safe, because you always have a little thing that you do for yourself. Nobody can fire you. You can bring money home. You get to live your passion. We just need to be brave, I think, as Tony says. It's very hard to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah,
Could I
it's
add?
I just want to say it might be challenging more than hard, and it might be unusual, but I know that it's an area that we want people to warm to. And over to you, Rawle. I know that just before you add that, I just wanted to reference that for Global Entrepreneurship Week, I know that you had some webinars and they were themed Pivot to Profit. So you're already thinking of getting people to intentionally make pivots.
Yes, I think it's one of the attributes or habits that fall under the umbrella of intentionality, and this ability to be flexible. And I found that many times when persons are going after a particular intention, they confuse the vision and the vehicle. So you may have a vision of financial success and you believe it must happen with this vehicle. All right. In other words, this method must be the way. All right. I was trained this way. I spent years doing this. So this must be the way. But when you understand intentionality, you'd understand that it comes with something called flexibility and adaptability, that ability to shift. And I really love this this topic that Tony introduced and Laila embellished upon, because we really, especially in this time, we have to be able to pivot, and it's not a one-time pivot. We will have to be pivoting over and over again, because nobody knows what this future is going to look like. As much as we have people projecting out there, but we have to have that capacity that whatever comes, we are able to make that adjustment. So it's a mental shift. It begins there, but then it's seen in our attitude. So I think it's one of the things that fall under the umbrella of intentionality.
Yes, thank you. Alina, I know over the period of the pandemic, you had to make some shifts as well, because one of your interests is in education, right? So you were both a supplier of education, a provider, but you were also able to access some things to broaden your own knowledge. You want to share a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The mindset is important. Continuing from what Rawle was sharing, and I want to say the vision is important. And I know I mentioned it when I was sharing earlier, but that thing about vision, it really is a thing for me, because as I would have shared with you in an offline conversation, Simone, that when COVID had hit at the school where I coordinate services, we had already had an online system set up. Now, prior to COVID, schools in Trinidad and Tobago typically didn't really have online systems for learning. Traditional primary level school, that wasn't a norm per se. And we had a full system set up just because it was just part of the vision to really expand and improve on the way we provide services. And at that time, I guess this would have been in 2019, it was determined that developing an online model would have been important. So we had developed an online model, had everything set up by the end of 2019. I was just there and we were just testing it among staff. And that was it. And when COVID hit, the first announcement came on Friday, March 13th. On Saturday, Prime Minister Rawle announced schools are going to be closed for a week, and our students were onboarded on Sunday and started school on Monday. When we set it up, we had no idea anything like COVID could come to Trinidad, hit Trinidad. We had never experienced before any situation in Trinidad and Tobago that just caused schools to shut down, and that was it. But here it is, because there was a vision to understand what is it that we want to achieve through the Institute. We made it smart. We connected with colleagues who understood the vision and they supported the vision. We connected and made sure we developed the capacity to be able to provide this particular service, that when it was required, we could have stepped into it. And I truly believe that that is applicable for any and every area of life. Because even in other areas where I work, in providing support to business owners and so on who require live streaming and recording and content creation support services, it was the same, that prior to COVID, this wasn't a thing. Prior to COVID, we may have been in a physical building somewhere, having a conference, standing on top of a stage with a PowerPoint behind us, right? But because of COVID, it's different. But you know what? Because there was a vision, because in that area through Launchpad Consultancy, there was a vision to tailor a different type of services. We started investing in equipment when virtual meetings and it wasn't a big thing. It was few and far in between, and people were not really interested because we so accustomed to going out and touching hands and hugging and kissing. But because there was a vision, the investment was made, the capacity was developed, the training was done. So again, when COVID hit, we were ready to move forward. And as Rawle mentioned a moment ago, pivoting is not a one-time thing. And as Laila mentioned, a lot of things are dead, whether we realize it or not. It's like when, if I were to use a biblical metaphor, when Jesus spoke to the tree and said, commanded the tree to die, and everybody looked and said, but the tree's still living. Just because it looked like it was living didn't mean it didn't die. It just means we didn't see the manifestation just yet. And that is similar, I feel, to what Laila is saying. It's dead. We may still see a beaten fish running up, but it's dead. And if we do not position ourselves to make sure we're very clear on what is our vision towards unpacking our instinct for self, life, for embodying life experiences and developing capacity to walk with it, we will not be able to embrace the many shifts we are going to have to continue to make, because it's not about the method, but it's about understanding that flexibility is needed, mindset adjustments are needed so that we could move forward and embrace all that life has available for us.
Thank you so much, Alina, for that. Lots of food for thought about being ready for the shift, being ready intentionally, and being ready is an intentional practice, or intentionality allows us to have a readiness about us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your closing comments, I will ask you to keep it to 1 minute. I'll start with Laila.
As we move forward, I really want to say that we have to teach our young people to be intentional, because I honestly believe that our young people don't think like we do. I think we need disruption in order to face the future. And I really want us to pay more attention to getting young people on board so that they can help us to create an amazing future, because I think they're going to think about things that, they have a capacity to dream that tends to expand beyond what people our age can do. So let us, I think, engage them in it and give them the skills to do it as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laila. Anthony.
Thank you very much. So the thing is, I would like to, one of the things I'd like to say is we, as a people, that's Trinidad and Tobagonians, I really beg us as a society to become more nationalistic and a little prouder in our country, right? And to look after, when you look at places like Jamaica and Barbados, our two competitors or brothers in arms, if you will, they have a very high sense of nationalism. A Jamaican will tell you, regardless of what race they are, I am a Jamaican first and foremost, and a proud one of that. So when we have that thinking, that is part of intentionality in my view. We have a group think that we are up and up. We Trinidadians and Tobagonians are such talented people. But we had to move out of the VAPS, the kind of VAPS mode, and become more deliberate, more purposeful, more contemplative, more intentional in how we conduct ourselves. And the way I see us doing that is by doing more planning. Simple things that we'd have heard from time to time, like vision boards. Make sure and do vision boards. Put your goals down on paper. Don't worry about the how. Write the goals, make decisions. You want even a thing like a car, you want a black Corolla or white Corolla, make up your mind, right? Don't just say you want a Corolla or a RAV4. You want, see the color, feel it, right? As Laila had said, you have to put some feeling into it, right? So that is critical, the feeling into the intentionality, goal setting, the vision boards and so on. And that gives you a multi-pronged attack in terms of gaining success and growth, which is the objective.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
Alina.
I would encourage people to surround themselves with people who represent their vision values. When we surround ourselves with those people who are on the journey to either where we are or where we want to be, it makes it easier to have the motivation, the encouragement, and opportunities for capacity building that we may lack or we may be challenged in those areas because they too are on the path and they're going to be encouragers of the path that we're on. So I really want to encourage people as we look at being intentional, be sure to surround yourself with people who are on that path. Surround yourself with those who represent your vision values.
Thank you, Alina. And Rawle.
I would like to borrow a phrase from Laila. Laila spoke earlier about surrender, and I'd like to encourage persons to surrender to success through intentionality. Okay? We have to become more deliberate about the things that we want to achieve in life. And there are many opportunities that exist. Going into 2022, there's a lot that is going to be possible. But life is not just going to give it up, right? You have to extract it from life. You have to demand it from life. And intentionality is that set of skills that will allow you to extract those things that are for you, right? There are things, there are homes and property with your name on it. There are vehicles with your name on it. There are healthy relationships and family relationships with your name on it, but you have to extract it from life. Life is not just going to give it to you. And intentionality, being deliberate, being purposeful is a key skill to achieving that. So this is what I want to leave with person.
Thank you so much. And thank you to each one of our panelists, Dr. Laila Nadina Boisselle, Anthony De Freitas, Mrs. Alina Lewis, and Rollocks, who helped to put it in the context of business. We were reminded of the need to share the way of being intentional with youths. We've gone the way we know how to, and we need to share it with them. No longer can we operate vai or on a VAPS. We really need to be determined and deliberate in our approach and surround ourselves with people who are like-minded, people who can help encourage us to continue on that intentional path. And of course, we need to surrender to being intentional. It's a choice, it's a decision. It doesn't just happen. We have to make it happen. And I thank the three presenters this evening for making today Intentionality, Decoding Financial Success happen. We appreciate you guys. There is so much more in store coming up from VisionWorks. And just to pass you over now to Mr. Rollocks, who is an impact consultant and the lead consultant at VisionWorks Solutions, to share some thoughts with us. Rawle.
I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you to all those persons who've been a part of these sessions. First of all, to the panelists tonight, to Laila, to Anthony, to Alina, and for Simone for guiding our session this evening. VisionWorks is really passionate about helping persons achieve success in every area of your life. But we made a commitment on our Financial Fridays to help in this particular area of finances, and really because of a survey. And you all know we spoke about that survey. In that survey, you indicated that you needed help with budgeting, that you needed help with earning more money, you needed help with setting priorities. And this is what we embarked on how many months ago. So we covered quite a ground in terms of providing information and providing individuals to help you make more money. We had some great Make More Money Fridays with loads of ideas about how to do so, about budgeting. We came up with 101. I don't know if you guys that would tune in and remember that 101 budgeting ideas. We went into online payments and a host of topics over that period. And I really like to say thank you for being a part of it. As we peer into next year, We have a lot more to come, lots more to come. We're going to be changing the format a little bit, but definitely we would like to have you to continue on this journey as we all together seek to improve our lives and really achieve the success that we know it's possible and we know that we deserve. So I like to just close by saying, enjoy this season. Be safe. We know it's a very challenging time, but we know working together, bonding together, we can make it through this successfully. All right. You want to touch base with us, you want to follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn. All right. You can stay tuned to more promos that will be coming up as we get into next year. We are also have in mind a session on your BHAG, those big, hairy, audacious goals. That's something coming up that we realize a lot of persons have been intimating to us that it's something that they need. We want to cover that as well. So stay tuned for that particular promo. So for now, I'd like to say thank you very much for being with us. This is our last session for the year. All right. So enjoy the Christmas season. Be safe. Spend time with your family. And it's happy having you. I'm happy having had you on the inside. So thank you and God bless and all the best.